Index number ASA 1,675,032,017 Excellencies, we, the undersigned human rights organizations, strongly support calls for UN Human Rights Council special session on the deteriorating human rights situation in Myanmar and urge your delegations to support holding such a session as soon as possible. In light of serious reports of human rights violations, including crimes against humanity, committed by Myanmar security forces, including unlawful killings, rape and other crimes of UAL violence, widespread burning and destruction of Rohingya homes and property, mass deportations and the unlawful use of anti-personnel landmines, and given the unprecedented exodus of over 500,000 Rohingya refugees from Myanmar into Bangladesh, we believe that a special session is imperative to launch decisive action and ensure international scrutiny and monitoring of the situation. While the Council must pay particular attention to the situation of the Rohingya and Rakhine State, it should not restrict itself to addressing one region, in keeping with past resolutions on this issue. It is important that the Council acknowledge and express concern over the deterioration of the human rights situation in other parts of the country, including over reports of violations and abuses of international human rights and humanitarian law in Kachin and Shan states, which in some cases have implicated the same military units as in Rakhine State. These have included torture, enforced disappearance, extrajudicial executions and killing civilians through indiscriminate use of force by the Myanmar military. Such a comprehensive approach would contextualize larger patterns of violations and address more effectively structural issues in Myanmar that have contributed to the current crisis and overall deterioration of the situation in Myanmar. Therefore, in keeping with past resolutions on the situation in Myanmar under Item 4 and Item 2, the Council should pass a resolution that covers serious human rights concerns in Myanmar as a whole, or at minimum the human rights of the Rohingya, Kachin, Shan, Tang and other minorities across the whole country. Failure to do so would not only overlook the situation of other people in Myanmar including other ethnic and religious minorities but also risk further isolating the Rohingya within Myanmar and further jeopardizing them. In light of the above, our organizations call for the special session resolution to recognize serious concerns expressed by the High Commissioner for Human Rights in his address to the 36th session of the UN Human Rights Council, the UN Secretary-General in his September statement to the UN Security Council, the UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Myanmar in her October report to the UN General Assembly, the October Rapid Response Report of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and the Presidential Statement of the UN Security Council on the 6th of November. In doing so, the resolution should also acknowledge the likelihood of the commission of crimes against humanity, consistent with recent findings by UN bodies and human rights organizations, call on the fact-finding mission on Myanmar, established by this council, to offer its expert advice to relevant UN bodies seized of the situation in the country including to the UN Security Council for consideration of appropriate action and further invite the UN fact-finding mission to include recommendations on an appropriate accountability mechanism for alleged perpetrators of crimes under international law. In its final report recognized the 19th of October joint statement by the UN Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide and the UN Special Advisor on the Responsibility to Protect, which calls on Myanmar to take immediate action to stop and address the commission of atrocity, the peaceful exercise of their human rights, and revoke all pending criminal proceedings against such peaceful activists. Review and amend laws which arbitrarily restrict the peaceful exercise of these rights and take appropriate steps to ensure the safety and security of journalists, civil society activists and human rights defenders and their freedom to pursue their activities without fear. The resolution should further call on all states to exercise universal jurisdiction in investigating, prosecuting or extraditing any person under their jurisdiction who may reasonably be suspected of committing crimes against humanity or other crimes under international law in Myanmar, while ensuring that all proceedings meet international standards of fairness and do not involve seeking or imposing the death penalty. Call on all states to use all their influence and all diplomatic tools at their disposal to urge Myanmar to immediately work to implement the recommendations listed above. Call on all states to assist with meeting the humanitarian needs of persons displaced within Myanmar and in other countries including Bangladesh, including as regards protecting women, children, and others at risk of UAL violence, trafficking, and similar abuses. Call on all business enterprises, including transnational corporations and domestic enterprises, to ensure they are not, intentionally or otherwise, contributing to violations or abuses of human rights addressed by the resolution, and call upon home states of business companies operating in Myanmar to set out clearly the expectation that all business enterprises domiciled in their territory and/or jurisdiction are to respect human rights throughout their operations, highlighting the need for particular scrutiny of any operations or commercial relationships that could prejudice the rights of Rohingya Rohingya or other displaced communities. Please accept, Excellencies, the assurances of our highest consideration. Sincerely, Actions Burmani, Belgium Altchan Burma Amnesty International Asian Forum for Human Rights and Development FORUMASIA Article 19 Banglar Manabadakar Surak Shaman Shamasum India Burma Action Ireland Burma Campaign UK Bites for All Pakistan Cambodian League for the Promotion and Defence of Human Rights LICADHO Centre for Human Rights University of Pretoria Civicus World Alliance for Citizenship Participation Commission for the Disappeared and Victims of Violence Contras, Indonesia Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative Connectors Direitos Humanos Brazil European Rohingya Council Global Center for the Responsibility to Protect Info Burmanian Forum Human Rights Documentation Center, Sri Lanka International Commission of Jurists ICJ International Bar Associations Human Rights Institute IBAHRI International Federation for Human Rights FIDH International Service for Human Rights ISHR Korean House for International Solidarity Maldivian Democracy Network MDNO Dakar, Bangladesh Partnership for Justice, Nigeria People's Vigilance Committee on Human Rights PVCHR, India People's Watch, India Program Against Custodial Torture Impunity PACTI, India Progressive Voice Pusat Komas, Malaysia Rohingya Community Ireland Savitri Biful Women Forum SWF, India Stephanus Alliance International Swedish Burma Committee,